Okay, we're recording.
Hi,
This is
Len.
going to be. This must be
Hi,
Len's
Jake.
last appearance in Florida. Is this your last appearance in Florida, Len?
Yes, it is, Rick. Yeah,
Oh,
we
okay.
begin the multi-day journey back home to Connecticut, actually on Thursday.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, we'll be missing those palm trees swaying in the out the window there, man. We
You and me
can't,
both, brother.
no. I mean,
Yeah,
it's been keeping Jake warm in with all this bad weather that he got in Maryland, right,
Yeah,
Jake?
for real. I was living vicariously through Len.
Oh, I don't know about
It's actually,
that, Len. That puts a bit of a burden on your shoulders, mate.
I know Jason's a simple guy like me, just wants sunshine, palm trees, that's it.
it's actually not bad here now. I think it's in the low 50s, so and it's supposed to be going to the 60s later on this week. So our snow is gone.
Oh, great.
Yeah, our
Glad
snow
to
is all
hear
gone.
that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, who do we have on the telephone? We know we have Dennis Correa because he shows up in two places. Which number are you, Dennis?
I don't know. Tell
Oh,
me.
number three.
Yeah.
Number three. Dennis
Okay.
Dennis is number three. Okay.
You
And
don't know, but
You have
we
also
know.
Chris Hill. I phoned in like maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I first started treatment,
yes.
and treatment went well, but things are starting to change. So
Okay,
I
so
wanted
we'll come back to you, Chris. You live
to.
in Sonoma County, right?
Yes, I do.
Right. I remember you. There you go.
Okay.
And isn't it Chris with a K?
Yes, it is.
I
Good
thought
memory.
so. There you go. Okay.
What, KRIS?
Yeah.
KRIS. Yes. Yes. Well, I'm glad we never took you off of our list, Chris, and we'll definitely come back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate you sending me all those emails.
Our pleasure.
I finally am able to maybe have a discussion with you guys at some point. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or whether it's next time or what.
No, we'll give you some time. And who else do we have on the telephone?
This is Sylvester Mann.
So
I'm always on the phone. Hello,
we know
everybody.
you're always on the phone.
Hi, Sylvester.
Hi, Sylvester.
We don't know which number you are. Now we know you're number 4. Because you only show up as a number to us until we fill in the blanks here. So
Well, at least I learned I have a number.
there you go.
Did you assign me a number by any chance?
Well, it doesn't matter, Chris, but
Okay.
we know which number. You see, if you join these calls by phone, you just show up as a caller number, like caller number 1, number 2, number 3, and
Okay.
other people who are online see that caller number, and we can edit the number. We can edit the number and put in your name, which is why we asked who's on the phone, so that way we know who's talking later on.
Okay.
So any number you have this time could be a different number next time, right, Mr. Correa?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So let's just see. We've got everybody. So we do. I'm just going to do then a quick roll call, and we'll get cracking here. So we've got Jake, Dennis Correa, Jay Krugman, Peter Kafka, Scott Scheffler, Chris Hill, Professor Bill, and Sylvester. Did I miss anybody? Good. Okay. I have a feeling we'll be getting more people as we go on. So, Chris, since your 3 year interval, I do have notes on you though, but a 3 year interval is as good as being a new person, I would say. What would you say, Jake?
Yes.
Would you say that qualifies as a new person, Jake?
Definitely as a new person, yes.
Definitely is a new person. So,
Welcome to the call, Chris.
so since it's been such a long interval, why don't you kick us off today by telling the guys a little bit about your background, and have you, by the way, I know originally that I think Steve McDonald led you to us, but I haven't heard from Steve in ages.
Yeah, I met him in Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
And then he basically exchanged a few emails with me and then kind of disappeared and, just said good luck to me. And
Okay.
And I haven't heard from him since.
Oh, okay. Well, he used to stay in touch with me, and I met him for lunch one time, and but I haven't heard from him for the longest time. So tell the guys a little bit about your background and when you were diagnosed, what treatment you did, and where you are now.
Okay, I'll try to be as concise as possible. So I enjoy cycling, and I was on a bike ride on August 20th, where I did quite a long ride. But then it was like a 70-miler, but usually I can walk the next day, and the next day I couldn't walk this time, and I thought it was a hamstring, and it was like a couple of months before the physician actually, at my request, ordered a general blood panel to see if anything else was wrong, because the hamstring wasn't being treated as a hamstring injury, wasn't doing anything. So we found that I had an elevated plus over 90 PSA, and then bells and alarms went off, and I quickly found that UCSF was the best place to get treated and treated quickly, and they did. They admitted me in late July, and they treated me maybe the next appointment, maybe a week later. And I was on board with, I was on board with Dr. Kim as the oncologist and Dr. Chang as the radiation oncologist. And they consulted a tumor board and came up with a course of treatment, low dose radiation for 21 days over the course of a month, and then brachytherapy for an overnight session, and then Lupron 22.5 milligrams every 3 months. And to jumpstart it, they put me on bicalutamide. And then, oh, by the way, my Gleason score was 4+ floor, and it was what I thought was a hamstring injury was a local metastatic. I don't know if that's contradictory, but it was a metastatic that was still in the pelvis on my on the bone of the pelvis, and that's what was causing the pain. So I did have stage 4 and a Gleason 4+ floor. So this treatment, by the time by 3/3/15 went down to undetectable, and then they said it would take me a year to recover. So that was and so by late July of 17, I was off of the therapy. No, excuse me, late July of 16. That's 2 years of treatment, and so they decided to give me a break and see what happened. And then slowly but surely it edged up, and it was of no concern early on, but now it's like it's the graph is like pitching up. It's like escalating incredibly percentage-wise. And then Dr. Kim wanted to wait until I got to a 2 PSA, but I could see that could happen within a month or two easily, from 0 to, and that's over the course of about 2 years. But now that the PSA is elevating very quickly, he wants to start some other treatment, and he's eager to give me an increased dose of hormone therapy. And I've asked him through an email, would he be willing to consult the tumor board again? And I'm getting a feeling, although I have no direct evidence, that he kind of wants to take over on his own, but I'm not really sure of that. But I want to, and Dr. Chang left to UCLA, so I want to get back on board with the radiation division there at UCSF, just so that, because I had been seeing them until Dr. Chang left, and I just want to get back into their awareness in case that should be another option. But basically, that hormone therapy was really difficult. I was active, but it was very depressing and suppressing of my energy level. And I fought through it tooth and nail, but it was not easy. And I just am scared of having an increased dose of that same thing. And I don't know if he's going to call for a longer duration, or in addition to the increased dose, I'm going to see him in a month, and I have a pile of questions to ask him. But I just wanted to see if anybody has any comments, or if there's any other options on the table for me other than hormone therapy, which I probably doubt. And if this will be just the course of action until it's ineffective anymore. And that's generally speaking. And I just became suddenly kind of fearful of what lay ahead. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm calling. A little bit selfish, but I have to advocate for myself, so that's why I'm calling in.
Well, Chris, first of all, there's nothing selfish about this at all. You need to educate yourself. A lot of things have changed since you were first diagnosed in 2014 in terms of treatment options and the way we treat your disease. And we happen to like Won Kim a lot.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I recently recommended him, I did recommend him as the first choice option to somebody, and they went to see him and they were thrilled. A man who got diagnosed like you with metastatic disease. He lives in Contra Costa County, I think. And he was thrilled with him. And while I don't know him that well, in November when they had the Prostate Cancer Research Day, he gave the invocation, and I was just incredibly impressed with him.
Good. I'm really glad to hear.
As a good doc, a caring, compassionate doc, and his mentor is Larry Fong, and Larry is the best. So he's well trained, and if it were me choosing a GU medical oncologist, I would have absolutely no problem at all with Won Kim being my doctor.
I'm glad to hear that.
I think that you're in really good hands. Yes, we're well aware that Albert's left. There are a couple of good guys that are definitely there. But I would say at this point, you are sort of not beyond, because there are roles a radiation oncologist can play, but the radiation oncologist is no longer your quarterback. Your quarterback
Aha.
is your medical oncologist,
Okay.
Dr. Kim. And I don't think, if it were me, I would be looking for um, a, a radiation oncologist on my team until I knew what Dr. Kim had in mind and until I knew exactly where my disease had reoccurred, because you may be a candidate to get some spot radiation. But that's so it can be a permanent fix, but it rarely is. But it can do a lot to retard the disease, but it's more of a band-aid than it is a permanent treatment. So radiation is unlikely to be, at least in the form that you know it, and you've seen it, radiation is unlikely to be a major part of your treatment going forward. So I wouldn't knock yourself out in trying to get a radonc back onto your team. I'd be running into the arms of Dr. Kim. Now, having said that, I want to clarify something with you. The dose that you got of Lupron, which is 7.5, whatever it is, I can't remember the units. I think it's milligrams. I'm not sure.
At 22.5 milligrams every 3 months.
Right. So 7.5 milligrams a month is what I was going to say.
Okay.
Scales up in these depot shots, and you got a 90-day depot shot. That was similar to what I had.
Okay.
It's highly unlikely that he's going to give you a different dose to that. I've never heard anybody getting anything other than that dose.
Okay.
He's not talking about giving you a bigger dose. He's probably talking initially about putting you back on Lupron, and possibly with some other options, which we'll discuss on this call momentarily. And, you know, I'll bring in the other guys and I'll tell you what those options are right now that we see when the disease comes back, and you can think about them. The bad news, which I feel, you know, if you haven't heard it, I guess I'm the one that has to break it to you, is that hormone therapy is going to be part of your treatment for as long as you live. Maybe not permanently, because we have people on this call who have taken breaks. Slightly different situation to you, but they've gone on and they've gone off. But at the same time, with your disease, where it's come back, they generally advise that breaks may not be such a good idea. But it's very much up to you. And unfortunately, Peter Kafka, who's muted at the back of his bus, his disease came back, and he's successfully managed going on and off of hormone therapy, of Lupron. And he's just about to go back on Lupron with another drug. But he took a break of, 20 months or something like that. So you are going to have to go back on it. The last thing I want to say is that, like you, I was around the same age when I got diagnosed. I was 56. And I was an avid athlete. And I thank God my disease was only locally advanced. It wasn't, there was no distant metastasis anywhere that they could see. But nonetheless, I did 28 months of hormone therapy. And like you, I had to battle through it. Now, if mood and depression and hot sweats and fatigue and all those things are something that you found that you dealt with, we could have helped you. Maybe we could have helped you, because we have some workarounds, we have some proven things that will help you, we have lots of suggestions, but you have to keep coming back to us so that we know you need that help. Because who knows, you need Who knew in 2015 and 16 that you were feeling so crummy? You didn't tell us, and we couldn't help you, right?
Oh, okay. I thought that he just said, get on this and you just have to sweat it out. I didn't realize there was ways to deal with that.
Well, there's always mitigants. I mean, they work for some people and they don't work for others. And there are people on this call who will tell you that they've handled it well, and there are people on this call who will tell you they haven't handled it well. But there's no harm in trying to make you feel better. And one of the things that we really like to do on this call is to help people handle their treatment in a much better fashion than they're currently handling it if they're suffering. We don't like.
Oh, that would be great.
So having said all of that, I want to tell you what the two options are, and then I want to throw it open for people to talk to you about those options.
Okay.
It now seems best if your medical team introduces either second-line hormone therapy, such as Zytiga, which is also called abiraterone, or Xtandi, which is enzalutamide. If one of those two drugs, and there's actually a couple of others that have just come out recently, is introduced very early in the process, and the discussion with Dr. Kim will be, would you add a second-line anti-androgen now rather than waiting? Alternatively, we know that the biggest bang for your buck comes from the early use of chemotherapy, usually around six treatments of docetaxel or Taxotere. And the studies have suggested that extends survival by the greatest amount. So the discussion that you'll be having with Dr. Kim is, do we have one of those two things now? And I will send you, after the meeting, a very good online discussion that it's actually on our website too. You can access it on the website, between three eminent genitourinary medical oncologists, one of whom is actually from UCSF, or he's from UCSF until the end of this week when he moves to Minnesota to take over their oncology group, the University of Minnesota Oncology Group. And they discuss how early to introduce one of these two options, and which one first, which one second. And the reason why I think it would be a good idea for you to listen to this is because it's going to give you some background and give you a basis to ask Juan Kim some questions. Okay.
I did have the chemotherapy on my list of considerations. I just threw out everything I could think of in terms of therapies, but I don't really know anything. But that was on my list to ask him if that was something that he would recommend also.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up right now and let some other guys talk to you, ask you questions, give you their suggestions. Rather than give you their suggestions, because we try not to give medical advice, tell you what their experience has been and how they've handled determining how they should proceed when their disease comes back. So, who would like to start?
Well, Chris, this is Peter. This is Peter from the back of the van here.
Okay.
So I have a similar timeline as you. I also had Dr. Chang do my radiation. There were some differences in my situation, and I'm right now going through recurrence, beginning of metastatic, and I just started Zytiga on Friday. So today's about my 5th day of Zytiga. I don't feel anything yet, but I know it's coming coming around the mountain here. And I know, as Rick said, that possibly 4 rounds of chemo is on the board too. I'm going to meet with my oncologist next week. But I'm ready for it. I mean, I think jumping on, all evidence shows that jumping on things quick is important. Another thing you might want to discuss with your doctor is whether you're a candidate to do a scan at this point. If your PSA is jumping that fast, if it is doubling, I don't know how often you check your PSA, but if you do it monthly, you should graph it and see if it's doubling less than every 3 months.
I have been graphing it, yes.
Is it doubling less than 3 months?
Well, at first it was went from undetectable, and then it went 93%, then 22%, and then plus 7.4, then 64.7, and then 28.4, and then now it's spiked at the rate of 116.6% the last per 3 months, at that rate of 116.6% for 3 months in the last test. So it just is like it's just starting to take a sharp turn up. And
the number you want to watch for that they usually use is if you graph it, if your number each month is going up and it doubles within 3 months, then that's a sign that things are on the move in a pretty aggressive way. But if it's over
it just started that way, yes. It's at 0.57 on the last reading, but it's doubling. That would be doubling within the last 3 months, I would say, yes.
Ask your doctor if you can get your PSA checked every month, and also you want to get testosterone checked.
Really, he said he had no need for testosterone checking, but I'd been doing it anyway, and he seems to be. He keeps telling me don't check testosterone, but I guess that's up to me whether I check it or not. So I guess I will.
Well, one reason that it's good for you to check your testosterone, if for no other reason, because you're not on hormone therapy at all right now. You haven't been for 2 years, correct? Since 2016?
Almost coming up on 2 years, yeah.
Right. So the reason why we strongly recommend to get a testosterone test right now is that if you do go on a drug holiday in the future, you know what your normal level of testosterone is. So it gives you a framework, it gives you a benchmark when you come off the drug and your testosterone comes back, you kind of get to know whether you've gotten back to your old normal or you haven't. So it is definitely helpful. But sorry, Peter, but just tell us, what exactly is your PSA right now?
It was on 3/12/18. It was at 0.57.
Okay. So,
but the previous, only a month earlier, or only 6 weeks earlier, was 0.36. So you can see it's spiking right now.
Right. But don't knock yourself out about, other than the fact that it's going up quickly, which is really important. You've done all the right things. It went up quickly. You've responded. You set an appointment with Dr. Kim. It's still in a very manageable range. Peter, what's your PSA was right around that number. I think it might be a little bit higher now.
Right. It's my last check was 0.77.
Right.
But it was doubling every 7 weeks.
Right. So give Chris a little bit of a feel for some of the treatment options that you're considering, Peter.
Well, as I said, I started Zytiga. I'm going to get a Lupron shot next week, go back on Lupron. I had an 18-month holiday, and now I'm starting again. And I started the second-line anti-androgen called Zytiga last week. And so that's And possibly, in consultation with my oncologist, we'll see whether I should think about chemo. But I think he's going to wait a while on that. And right now, I'm looking at possible stereotactic radiation as well, because I don't have mets to the bone. Mine's in the lymph nodes right now.
Okay. Is Zytiga similar to Lupron?
I think it's stronger. It's a stronger stuff, and it's not a shot. It's an oral medication.
Zytiga works to. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead, please.
Zytiga works with the androgens produced by the adrenal glands, so it's which can be converted to testosterone. So your Lupron shuts down the testosterone produced by the testes, and Zytiga shuts down the androgens produced by the adrenals, which can be changed to testosterone.
And
at least that's how I understand.
Yeah, actually, it does even a little more than that. I'm thinking back in 2008 when Chuck Ryan got up on that same stage in the yearly research meeting, and he told us that they were about to approve this drug called abiraterone, and what abiraterone did is it stopped the cancer from making its own testosterone. And everybody looked and said, what are you talking about? The cancer makes its own testosterone? At least those of us who were patient advocates that were in the meeting that were not scientists who didn't have the background. And essentially what happens is that cancer gets smarter and smarter. And as we starve the cancer of testosterone, it tries to find it in other places. And as Chef mentioned, the adrenals make testosterone, but there are other compounds in the body, like cholesterol, which the cancer can actually break down and pull out the testosterone molecules that are in cholesterol and use that to feed on. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And what Zytiga does is it acts on certain proteins and prevents the cholesterol being reduced to testosterone. Now, before I say anything further, Professor Bill, am I right? Am I wrong? Do I need to be corrected? Are you there, Professor Bill? You're muted right now. No. Well, Bill.
I'll jump in, Rick. You are correct.
Thank you.
Zytiga will block synthesis of testosterone via any mechanism. Well, I shouldn't say any mechanism, by any path.
Right.
All paths go through a certain enzyme, CYP17A. Not important to know, but whether the testosterone is produced by the tumor, by the testes, by the adrenals, Zytiga will prevent the synthesis of testosterone from all sources.
Thanks, Len's our resident pharmacologist. And Professor Bill, I see your microphone is lit up. Are you there?
I'm sorry, I lost the my buttons here. I couldn't find the unmute button.
Okay.
Len, of course, got it perfectly right.
Okay, thank you.
First.
Thank you. You see, Chris, we keep a resident brains trust on this call to keep me on the straight and narrow.
Is that abiraterone the same as Zytiga?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Abiraterone,
Okay.
abiraterone acetate is the generic name. Zytiga is the commercial name.
Okay.
Let me go back to Peter. Peter, you want to add anything else?
No, I think that's it. I would just, I think you're doing okay. if you don't have that rapid a rise. I mean, you have a rising PSA, but I don't think your doc is super excited. I think it's going to be manageable. That's my take on it.
Okay, that sounds and like quantity wise, it's not rising a lot, but percentage wise, it seems to be increasing.
Right. Which
right, but it's not doubling within 3 months. If it went from 0.3 something to 0.5 something.
Oh, that was only in 6 weeks though, and that was 106
weeks.
Yeah, so it would double over a 3-month period. The way I figured it, because that was 58% in that period, so double 58% would be doubling it. Would be 116%. So
see what your oncologist says. He'll put you on the right track. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. All right, that's good. So far, I've heard of like an early introduction of I didn't even understand the first 2 drugs, Geiger and Extremity or something like that. That what Rick said in the beginning, the best to introduce second line, and then he said 2 different drugs.
Okay.
And then he went on to say, can chemo be also introduced shortly thereafter?
Let me repeat it for you. What I said is, I didn't say it's best. I said you need to ask Dr. Kim whether he thinks you should introduce a second line anti-androgen or second line hormone therapy. And those and the 2 drugs that are most used right now are Zytiga, which is the abiraterone, ZYTIGA, Zytiga, and that is almost always prescribed with prednisone, which is a mild steroid. And the other drug that is frequently used is a drug called, the commercial name is Xtandi, 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 and the generic name is enzalutamide.
And Xtandi is comparable to Zytiga?
Yes.
In some ways?
Yes.
So it would be one or the other then?
Yes, it works.
Okay, and that would be in place of Lupron, should doctor decide, or along with Lupron?
Yes.
Along with.
Okay. Okay, now I understand better.
There are a lot of guys on this call who have done or are doing Zytiga or Xtandi, and there are a bunch of guys on this call who have done chemo. So if you have any questions, they're here. But hopefully you'll come back and talk to us and listen in some more between now and when you see Dr. Kim.
I will, definitely.
Okay. Would you like to...
Yeah, that was a brain full of stuff that you introduced me to, and that was very helpful. I appreciate all of your comments.
Okay. So anybody else like to throw out any thoughts or comments for Chris?
I had to step. This is Jake. I had to step away when Chris was first talking. Do you have metastases or not?
Yes, I have a kind of local. I don't know if they use that word, local metastases, not far from the prostate. It's on the pelvis. And there's one notable tumor on the pelvis that caused me pain. It was about 3 centimeters, and they didn't find anything anywhere else with the scans that they used. Okay. But they did, when they did radiation, they targeted, of course, that tumor, and they targeted the prostate, and they targeted all the lymph nodes. And then they did brachytherapy. They only found the one. But it's kind of a big tumor, I guess, 3 centimeters.
have you had any scans over the last 4 or 5 years since it was first seen? Do we know if it's still there or not?
The only thing what happened was I was actually in a bike crash, and they sent me through a CAT scan. They found a lump on my lung. They weren't looking for it, but they found it, so they sent me to get a PET scan, and the PET scan doctor felt that lump on the lung was not cancerous. He said it was likely not cancerous.
Okay.
But I did send those images to Dr. Kim, and I'm still waiting for him to comment. And
I have
perhaps he'll
had
other images.
I have a note you had a suspicious liver lesion. Is that right?
Yes, that's true too. And that was never addressed at any time during any of my treatment. And perhaps I should ask, maybe Dr. Kim will address that the next time I see him.
Yeah.
I could ask him about the liver lesion as well as that lung lesion as well.
Chris, make a big note as to what Peter said to you, which is you need scanning again. And,
okay.
And you may be, and I'm going to give you something else to write down now, is that you may be a candidate for the gallium, GALLIUM, the gallium 68 PSMA scan, which is being tested at, it's a very good scan. It's being tested at UCSF. It's almost the best that's available anywhere. There is, I think, some out of pocket for you, but hopefully it's manageable. But it's worthwhile because it's going to pick up lesions in a much more sensitive fashion than almost any other scan. Peter, that's your cue.
Yeah, it's I just had it about 3 weeks ago at UCSF. I think the out of pocket's about $900. You can apply. Just talk to Dr. Kim about it. If you qualify, he'll put you on it. He's got to request. He's got to request it. You can't request it on your own.
So no insurance that exists would even cover that. It sounds like.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
And that's the bargain price, $900. At UCLA, you can get it. I think it's going to cost $2,600.
Oh, okay. All right. So I will inquire about that.
The reason it's such a good scan is because it's likely to pick up any metastasis earlier than any other one. Now, there is another scan that's available that is covered or should be covered, which is the Axumin, AXUMIN, the Axumin scan, which is very good, but it's not quite as good as the gallium. And so you could talk to him about that. The other thing is, did you, when you were first diagnosed, did you apply for SSDI?
Yes, I have that. And what I was previously on Medicaid, and then they switched me over to Medicare because I was on SSDI for 2 years, and then now I'm on a Plan F.
Okay.
And the amount I get for SSDI covers all the Plan F and a little bit more.
Right. So as long as I just wanted to figure out if you were on Medicare or not. So
Yeah, I am.
The Axumin scan is definitely covered. And as Peter says, because he sort of looked into it, probably the gallium is not, but you may qualify for some trial or the other. You can talk to Dr. Kim about it. And you can talk to Dr. Kim as to whether he feels that the gallium is more advantageous to you than the Axumin.
Okay.
Anybody else want to come in and talk with Chris?
Yeah, Rick, I believe I just recently read that Medicare has decided it will be covering genetic testing for
Yes.
all advanced cancers. So,
Yes.
so it would be covered for
Yes.
Chris.
But there's a big proviso here. It's right now, unfortunately, even though we wrote and we asked them to waive this from their original guidelines, it's a once in a lifetime request. However, that's the bad news. The good news is that you can get different tests. According to Foundation Medicine this week, when I spoke to them, you could get a Foundation 1 test right now because they haven't withdrawn it yet, although they plan to. And then you could get the new Foundation CDX test 5 years from now. But you can only get one test one time.
Okay. I did get, they asked me if I wanted to see if I had any genetic predisposition to prostate cancer because my father, my father's brother, and his father all had prostate cancer, and my uncle died from it. Although their findings was they did not find that I had a genetic marker for that, and they actually ended up refunding my money, even though they gave me the test results.
Okay.
And that was an out-of-pocket fee.
Right. So you've had what's called a germline test, and it didn't show anything, which is, good and bad. Some of the guys on the call have had the similar test, and it has shown stuff. Peter and Professor Bill, for example. But it hasn't shown for you. The somatic test is what Len was just talking about, and that analyzes the tumor rather than what you inherited. So it's a slightly different test. Whether it would be worthwhile doing it early in the game, I don't know. On the other hand, if they'll pay for a Foundation 1, and one may not know about this either, because this is really from the horse's mouth. But you could get a Foundation 1 test now, and it would be covered, and you could get another one of their tests later on if he thought it was worthwhile.
Okay, I've written that in my notes as well, genetic testing, and that would be for the tumor.
That's correct.
Rick, this is Jake. I may be wrong, but I think the article that Len was referring to that Medicare has approved, I think the only Foundation test that's been approved is the CDX.
No, it hasn't.
Not the liquid or not the other ones.
Mm-mm.
All of them now?
Next generation sequencing, but they require that CDX test for certain drugs. At least that's what David Marshak told me earlier on in the week.
Okay. It gets a little confusing, all the different tests they do offer.
Confusing, and they're not making a big deal out of this. They're not really publicizing it's a workaround. And if anybody wants to do that workaround, let me know, and I'll verify it with David. But I was Foundation Medicine asked me to send in a written letter, which I did when the guidelines came out about 3 or 4 months ago. And actually, a lot of people sent, not just me, a lot of people sent in letters, and you can see those letters online. And because there were a lot of issues that were not acceptable at the time, one of which was that prostate cancer was not immediately approved for testing. They've changed a lot of that, but the one big thing they didn't change was this one-time, this once-in-a-lifetime provision. And according to David, who's the director of patient advocacy at Foundation Medicine, that you can get that this will cover a Foundation 1 test, even though the Foundation CDX test is going to replace it. And then later on, you could do the Foundation CDX test. That's what he's telling me. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But if anybody wants to do that, and they don't want to use up their only shot early, just come back to me and let me know, and I'm happy to verify it with David. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
I have about 3 pages of notes. My brain is overflowing with really great information.
Okay.
And I'm going to recopy these notes so I can understand them better.
Well,
I also plan to go to a Santa Rosa meeting next Monday in person too, just to find a local place to see faces.
Right. I don't know that the Santa Rosa group. I know Ken and some of the Santa Rosa guys. I don't know that they'll have the depth of knowledge that we have on this call. You'll be educating them to some degree. But let me just give you one other little tip, which is that all of our calls are recorded. So you can go on our website later tonight or tomorrow when I get to it, and you'll be able to listen to this all over again.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah. So you'll find it by the date under recordings and decks. There's a tab on the website, and you'll just click in and you'll listen to it again. So if you missed anything, you can play it back till you're so sick of my voice that you want to throw the computer out the window.
Well, it seems like you've been a very generous advocate for prostate cancer, and I can't thank you enough.
Pleasure. But you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to let us know when you need help, because we can't keep on top of you without knowing that you need help.
Right. Okay, so I don't want to, take up the whole time with my own case, because I imagine other people want to discuss their cases too.
Okay.
But I have a lot of information that's going to be very helpful for my next meeting.
Good. And when are you seeing Dr. Kim?
On the about a month from now, it'd be on 4/19/18 at 3 p.m.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on. It's a small group tonight, so we should have plenty of time for everybody. And I don't think anyone else has come in. No one else has come in. So let me start at the top. Jake, anything you would like to talk about?
Not tonight, Rick. I went to my oncologist, but I didn't get my blood results back, so probably on Monday.
Well, do they have some sort of a vampire in your oncologist? I mean, what did they do? They ate your blood? Your results have disappeared, Jake. What's going on?
No, I just haven't gotten them yet. They always mail them to me. For some reason, they can't find mine. I can't go online and get them downloaded because they spell my name different each time. So. And they only let you use one email account it's a bureaucracy. They must work for the government.
Where exactly was it you worked for 30 years, Jay?
The government. So believe me, I know. If the government can screw it up, they will. And apparently these labs are the same way.
I see. Okay. Dennis, anything for you?
Yeah, just give you a quick update. I got my latest PSA.
Okay. We'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. Jay, anything for you, sir?
Just a quick update and a question.
Okay. Peter at the back of the bus, are you still at the back of the bus, and would you like to say anything?
Probably I should. I'll just keep quiet for the rest of it. I'm only going to be on for about another 15 minutes, and then I've got to meet my ride.
Okay, all right. Chef, anything for you tonight?
I'm just curious, is for first-time treatment, is Lupron and Zytiga the latest bang?
We'll come back and talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, save the question. We'll come back and talk about it. Professor Bill, what are you going to update us about? You can't find that mute button again, that unmute button. Here he comes.
Sorry.
Here he comes.
I
Okay.
have just a very brief update, but I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to stay awake.
Okay, we'll elevate you. We'll elevate you since you're back in your sleepy mood. And Sylvester, anything for you?
Just a quick question at the end of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We love it when you have a question, right, Jake?
Yeah, when we can get Sylvester to talk, I'm thrilled. I'm always thrilled.
Okay.
Me too. I like to hear that southern drawl.
Oh, and Len,
I love his voice. Yes, I do.
and Len, I forgot to ask you. I'm so sorry, Len. What about for you?
No, nothing for me, Rick. And sometime in April, maybe after I finally get back north and see an oncologist.
Okay. All right. So, Bill.
Paul Frieda? Did you get Paul Frieda?
Oh no, I didn't see that Paul joined us. Sorry, Paul. Paul, anything for you tonight?
No, I'm good. Just listening tonight.
Okay. Let's start with let's start with Bill, just in case you need to nod off. Bill, tell us how you're doing and what's going on.
That was a snore. I had my
like
first.
my wife.
I had my first pembrolizumab infusion, or Keytruda infusion. Not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before, and so it's too early to know whether or not it's having an effect. I fortunately haven't suffered any side effects other than it seems to have added more fatigue to what was there. So that's pretty much it. My next infusion is on April 5th, and hopefully we'll have a better fix on whether or not it's doing anything.
So when exactly did you start the Keytruda again? 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 days short of 2 weeks ago.
Okay. And yes, I mean, I think that the fatigue probably is related, Bill, because that's certainly been noted by others. What is your plan in terms of how you're going to monitor whether the Keytruda is effective?
I'm going to have a scan the same day as the infusion, and of course, a PSA measurement.
Okay. So, and what type of scan?
I think it's probably going to be a conventional technetium 99 scan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The only other, up until now, I've had sodium fluoride PET CT scans,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess it's been very difficult to continue to get them. So.
What about urinary. How are you doing with your UTIs and your urinary tract infection, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. And
Good.
I had another bladder spasm attack last week sometime maybe, but I managed to stay out of the hospital this time. So
Good, good.
and it eventually resolved.
Okay. Bill, did they ever measure your MSI, your microsatellite instability?
No, we haven't done it yet. I was going to have it done by a company that was recommended by the fellow at Dana-Farber that I had a consult with.
Yeah.
But he contacted me last week and told me that he had been at a meeting where this company was the subject of discussions, and he recommended not using them because they were unreliable.
Huh.
So that means my only option is either to get it in-house, with my colleagues at Roswell Park.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to talk to them again. I mean, they tried once to get some blood out of me, but failed. But I'm going to ask them to try again. And instead of the research guys going after it, I'm going to ask them to bring in a phlebotomist who has more experience drawing blood.
Okay.
And then, these guys are just setting up shop. So I'm not sure what to expect, but it's free. And my only other option besides that, I think, is I'm not sure. I don't want to go back to the primary because it's been too long. So I just don't know. I'm not sure, Rick. I may have my urologist go back in again and grab another sample of the primary tumor and see if that shows anything. I think that, if there is microsatellite instability, it probably is not, it will be detectable then, even though, it's been, well, it may give us an answer. I just have to. I want to talk to my urologist again.
I got a couple of thoughts. One is that I wonder if they can run the MSI and the MMR on with a liquid sample at Foundation Medicine with Foundation Act.
No, they don't. They're, for reasons that I don't understand, they can't detect microsatellite instability.
Well, they now detect. They can now detect it from a solid tumor.
Yes, right.
Okay.
But not, yeah, right. They can't. But the Foundation Act is the liquid biopsy. They can't detect it with that.
And then, and that's not reported on the Foundation Act. Okay.
Yeah, no, but if I go the route of having my urologist go back in again to get more, basically do a TERP, then that's where it will go. It will go to Foundation Medicine for the Foundation One.
Right. Test. Well, and again, I'd request Foundation One rather than Foundation CDX for the reasons we spoke of earlier on. I was very surprised. I'm glad that I tuned in this week because I didn't realize that you only get one shot now. Yeah.
Is that even regardless of your secondary insurance if you're on Medicare?
Yeah.
Or is there?
Yeah.
That's
Medicare
how
will
it
only
is.
cover it one time. So my guess is that the secondary insurance is not going to pay anything the second time around, but that's just for one test. So like David said, right now, before they withdraw the foundation one, get a foundation one, and then you can come back in, sometime in the future and get
Right.
the X. So
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Uh, I think that I'll make that a higher priority now that I know that that's the case.
yeah. Now, where else do you have? I forget. Where else do you have metastasis?
That's on my ribs,
Right.
but none of them, as of the last scan, none of them are large enough to go in.
Yeah.
Uh,
You see, here's the issue. I don't know that the primary tumor is representative of the metastasized tumors. The metastasized tumors are
no, I know that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's good discussion for everybody. Yeah.
the metastasized tumors in prostate cancer, we believe, are pretty much all identical, which isn't true in a lot of cancers, but it seems to be true in prostate cancer. But the primary tumor and the metastasized tumors are not necessarily identical. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Professor?
Well, I think it's, yeah, so tumors evolve over time. And so, but the metastases evolve more than the primary does. And so the problem with going after something from the primary is that it may not capture changes that have occurred in the metastatic tumors. And therefore it doesn't, it's less useful in terms of identifying actionable, mutations in genes that are actionable with drugs. But in the case of microsatellites, instability, that's something different.
Right.
It's not, it's a lengthening and shortening of repeat sequences in DNA. And it's either there or it's not. It's not going to change with time. So, basically I would be, if I decide to answer the question whether or not I have microsatellite instability, it would be with the it would be worthwhile to use the primary material from the primary tumor for that.
So, in other words, if you took a biopsy from a primary and a biopsy from a distant tumor, would you get different measures of MSI?
No, they would be the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's something that would set in earlier.
Okay. And what about the MMR? Isn't that multimodal repair? Is that it?
Mismatch repair?
Mismatch repair. Thank you.
Yeah, I've already had that test, supposedly.
Yeah.
My oncologist surprised me with that information a couple months ago. No one had told me that I had the test, and that was important information that I should have had. Apparently, they did it more than a year ago, but the test was negative. But that's not definitive. All it does, the standard test for mismatch repair is to look at the levels of proteins that are involved in that process. And if they're elevated, then, that usually indicates that there's a defect in mismatch repair. But I already know that I have a mutation in the key mismatch repair protein. And I know from the literature that that specific mutation kills the function of the protein. So despite the fact my mismatch repair measurement indicates that I don't have elevated levels of the protein, because it's mutated, it may still be non-functional. Does that make sense?
It does, but what I'd like you, if you could, can you give the call a very simplified sort of genetics for dummies explanation of what mismatch repair is?
It's repair of oh boy, it's it's complicated. So it's repair of mistakes in the synthesis of DNA. So, you know, there are basic building blocks of DNA that are added onto growing DNA chains when chromosomes are being replicated. And occasionally the wrong precursor gets placed into the chain at the end of the chain. And the mismatch repair program will remove it and replace it with the correct one. And so that can lead to a bunch of different types of mutations, but the key one is mutations that lead to the expansion and contraction of specific DNA sequences that have you know, a specific sequence constitute. No, I'm not being very articulate. They have a certain sequence elements, I guess is the best way to put it. So, but the key thing, what's really important here, I mean, nobody's ever going to remember any of this. The key thing is that, which is worth remembering for everybody, is that mismatch repair will generate more antigens, what are called, I think, neoantigens on the surface of tumor cells, and that makes them more susceptible to immunological attack. So if you have a defect in mismatch repair or microsatellite instability, then you know your mutation burden is going to be higher, and you're more likely to respond to immunological strategies for attacking the tumor, like Keytruda, which is the drug I'm on now. So that's the basic idea. I mean, the melanoma, for instance, is a type of cancer that has generally a much higher mutation burden than prostate cancer. And it frequently responds very well to checkpoint inhibitors like Keytruda because it has so many additional antigens. So, you know, I mean, there are reports in the literature of stage 4 melanoma patients, you know, going into complete remission for long periods of time.
Like our former president, Jimmy Carter.
Yes, yeah, exactly, right. But these drugs, like the one I'm taking, rarely work for prostate cancer patients unless they have a high mutation burden. And one way to get that is to have a defect in mismatch repair. So it is something for everybody to pay attention to. It's one reason, I guess, Chris, if you're still on the call.
Yes, I am.
It is, you definitely will want to think about getting your tumor DNA sequenced at some point. I mean, I think, you know, I don't think there's any rush at this point. I'm guessing that your oncologists are going to put you on either enzalutamide or abiraterone, and they're probably going to work for a while. But once they stop working, then you know, it'll be well worthwhile. The recommendation is for anyone that has metastatic prostate cancer to have their tumor DNA sequenced, because it will make it possible to, identify mutations in proteins that are actionable with a variety of drugs, but it also will identify microsatellite this phenomena called microsatellite instability that would make it perhaps more, worthwhile to consider immunotherapy, despite the fact that in many cancer patients it doesn't work very well. Does that all make sense?
Just to boil it down, to simplify it, if I get as long as at some point I get the test, then the doctor will be able to determine whether I can do immunotherapy. Is that the bottom line?
Well, he'll be able to know whether or not it's more or less likely to work. Yes.
Okay.
But in addition, it will be possible, aside from immunotherapy, the sequencing of your tumor DNA may identify mutations in proteins for which there are drugs that specifically interact with those mutations that might be useful in your treatment. That's something you're going to, be thinking about further on down the road after these second-line anti-hormone therapies that Rick was talking about stop working, and they will stop working eventually. None of these things work forever. So the bottom line is, I would definitely talk to your oncologist about it, just to have it on his radar. Okay. I don't think that, from my point of view, I don't think it's something that you need to have done right away, especially if he puts you on enzalutamide or abiraterone now. But somewhere, within the next, sometime in the future, the next year or so, you should talk with him again about getting the sequencing done.
Okay. Abiraterone, I didn't. Is that interchangeable with enzalutamide?
Zytiga.
That's Zytiga. Yeah.
Yeah, the Zytiga, well, abiraterone. Yeah, so abiraterone and enzalutamide are the two different drugs Rick was talking about.
Okay,
the mechanism, they both work according to the literature with fairly equal efficacy. And, some doctors like one and some doctors like the other, but they both work about to the same extent. The mechanism for, Len described the mechanism for abiraterone. The mechanism for enzalutamide is somewhat different. It doesn't block the synthesis of testosterone, but instead it blocks the interaction of testosterone with downstream elements of the pathways that lead to tumor cell growth. So it's a different mechanism, but the end result is the same. So, if he suggests either one, I think I'm guessing that's what he'll do. And I think that, both of them are equally, from what I know anyway, they're both, pretty much of equal efficacy.
And so Lupron with one of these two, and that's bound to increase side effects, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but let's I don't want to get back into this right now because we need to cover some other guys. But the answer is that it will increase side effects as Peter mentioned earlier on. Bill, thank you very much for the lesson. We hope you will start to feel better. I suspect that you probably need to be back in Vermont to feel a lot better.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, your voice picked up. Yeah. All right.
Buzz and Chris sent me a photo yesterday of the scenery looking out the window. So the rest of you, I don't know if you know, Rick visited us at the place where I stay in Vermont last summer, so he knows what the view is. And
It's gorgeous.
there's about 3 feet of snow up there now after all these northeasters
Wow.
came up the coast. So yeah, I'd love to get back there soon.
Okay. Well, think about a quick trip back there to make you feel better, and talk to us again very, very soon. I'm going to move on to Dennis. Dennis,
Rick,
you have a quick.
Rick, before you go on,
Yes.
we have another somebody else joined us on the computer. It says waiting for name.
Larry Burke.
Hello, Larry.
Hi, how are you?
Is your wife doing okay?
I'd like to say it's good to be here, but you know that's a lie.
is your wife doing okay?
Not really, but I don't want to get into that side issue. No.
Okay.
She may have to have the tooth extracted. So,
Okay. All right.
like everything, it's a saga.
Okay. Did you have any questions for us tonight?
Me, no. I was very interested in the conversation that was ongoing as I just, got here.
Right. Okay.
Because I have, again, I'm stage 4 and have metastasis in several places. So,
well,
that's certainly good information for me.
Yeah, and I recommend you go back and listen to the call from the beginning when we post it later on today. I'm gonna hit Dennis' career, and because we've got a few guys to get through, I think we'll manage comfortably, and then we may even have time to open it up for discussion on other issues. Dennis, tell us what is on your mind.
Yeah, well, pretty quick. I just got my results back from my blood work, and I'm now at 0.1 on my PSA. So the Zytiga prednisone Lupron deal is working well for me. I really don't see. I've been on the prednisone Zytiga now almost maybe over 6 months, and side effects are not really significantly increased at all. Maybe a little bit more fatigue or tiredness, but the hot flashes and night sweats continue about as they were. So I'm quite happy. And as I said before, the prednisone kind of gives me a side benefit of taking away some of my arthritis aches and pains. Right. So I'm actually feeling a little bit better overall. I keep telling people this is the best I felt on a cancer drug since I started. I mean, if anything I was taking, the cancer itself at my stage 4 or so forth, the bone mets, doesn't necessarily give me a lot of pain, but the chemo and the starting of the ADT and stuff, did give you not necessarily a real good quality of life going through that period, but then once it's over and you start coming back again. So this is just want to make that comment. I do have appointment tomorrow with my local oncologist to get the results of a bone DEXA scan. That's the density of the bones. I had a baseline done when I started my chemo and Lupron and stuff a little over 2 years ago. So we'll see where I'm at there. Hopefully I'm not going into osteoporosis and going to need any of the prescription bone strengthening stuff. Hopefully all of the calcium and D3 stuff I've been doing and exercise and activity that keep my bones in there for a while.
Okay, well, we're very happy, really truly happy to learn that your PSA continued to go down. So that's great, and it's great to learn that it's working. You're not getting Zometa though right now, correct? Or
no, I'm not. I'm not. He had mentioned that might be a potential if my bones start to show the need.
Well,
to prevent fractures.
Yeah, but it's also a prophylactic measure too. And it seemed like 4 or 5 years ago, the medical oncologists prescribed it much more readily than they do now. But I mean, you don't need that much, and you could probably take it once every 3 months. I know some people on the call take it more regularly, but you can probably manage once every 3 months, and it's probably not a bad idea to do it because the side effects are pretty minimal. So it's worth having the discussion, whatever the results of your DEXA are, because it is the protocol.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be seeing my other oncologist up at Mayo Clinic, Dr. Singh.
Right.
I've had an appointment for April 6th with him, so that'll be on the table also.
Yeah, definitely raise it with him. And just if the rest of the call will indulge me for a second, Dennis, if you and Mary Lou can swing it, I would strongly recommend you attend the seminar at the U of A on Thursday night with BJ Miller, because he is just incredible.
Yeah, I saw the little video that you forwarded.
I mean, he's just something very, very special, and I think the tickets are $18. It's for a nonprofit. It's for a charity, but he is really remarkable, and the chance to hear him in person doesn't come too often. Although we've got guys who actually do see him, but I just wanted to give BJ a plug because he's really a special person, very special person.
Yeah, I probably won't be able to do that. I do have my family coming in starting tomorrow morning, and they'll be here through Easter, so we're going to be pretty busy with stuff. I did see that next Monday is going to be the Metastatic Prostate Cancer Project.
Yes.
The webinar.
Yes.
And that is essentially replacing our call, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
I'm going to try to do that, even though they're still here, but they may want to listen in on that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have to plug that at the end. All right.
Rick, I have a question. I don't know what the protocol is. It sounds like Dennis is sort of on the same trajectory. I mean, he's way ahead of me, but I was diagnosed, just about a month ago with stage 4, and I would like to sort of pick his brain. So, can you put me in touch with him via email?
Absolutely.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dennis was diagnosed metastatic, so definitely I will connect Larry and Dennis after the meeting. I'll send an email to connect the two of you.
Right, and Dennis, I understand it's a holiday, and I won't burden you now, but probably after the holiday, I might reach out to you so we can email back and forth. If not that, then chat. Thank you.
That'd be great, Larry.
I also want to tell you that both of you are gearheads. So so this could be a long conversation discussing cars that you have owned in the past. If I just mention that until recently, Gary was the proud owner of an AC. Dennis was the proud owner of an AC Cobra. Larry, you'll look forward to talking to Dennis, and he'll send you pictures of that beautiful car.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. All right. I will take care of connecting you.
Thank
Jay, we're moving along.
Okay. Just wanted to update you. I had blood work done last week. It was about a 5-week interval from my last one, and I went from a 2.1 to a 3.7. So that is consistent with my doubling time of about 7 to 8 weeks. I've not gotten back with my oncologist in regards to thought processes here. I had asked him to fill out some paperwork, the insurance forms and everything else for the gallium test at UCSF. I got a call Friday from the nurse that said something was lost in transmission there, and we're restarting the process. So I'm kind of looking just for one to update and two for input in regards to getting into real numbers here, I guess. And if the gallium test is not available or feasible, do you do the X-Men, or also going through the hormone treatment again, which I did not take kindly to the first time I was on it.
Right.
Would I be better served maybe with chemo, even though that does require the hormone treatment as well? Maybe we'll get off both of those more quickly. So just looking for feedback.
So, yeah, I mean, plenty to talk about here. I think, Jay, that the biggest issue is what type of hormone treatment you can go on that will make you feel okay. Because I think that if you had not had such a previous issue with the hormone therapy, most everybody on this call will be saying to you, just get a shot of Lupron whilst it's moving. And because that's what we see most frequently. And probably what Dr. Tower would lean towards. The problem is that you don't do well, and maybe a discussion to have with Tower is whether high dose anti-androgen like Casodex, maybe 150 milligrams a day, which is what some guys do, might be at least a starting point until you get to until you get the scans done.
Okay. And I have had recent scans, just MRI and CT scan, and both of them were negative. So one of the other thought processes, and I consider it kind of warped maybe, but is, do I wait until we can find something on a scan, because I have gone through the disability and everything else.
Right.
I'm not there quite yet.
Well, as far as the gallium scan is concerned, and whether you could get it done at UCSF, Peter's our go-to man on that, because he jumped through those hoops, notwithstanding, of course, that he knew the ropes, and he knows the ropes at UCSF. Now, do you have Peter's email?
I am not sure I do. Now, I have talked with people at UCSF, and they say I would qualify, and they sent me all the all the forms necessary for my doctor to fill out.
Okay.
I also talked to a individual at University of Michigan who's doing the same thing, and said I would qualify for that as well, and trying to get that going as well. So I'd have a couple different places to go to if need be.
That's good information. I didn't realize that they were offering a gallium scan in Ann Arbor, but that's helpful to know.
And it's not funded either, but
right. Well, if you need to talk to Peter, let me know. So it sounds like that the mess up is at your end and not at UCSF's end. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, that I can't help you with. You have to bang heads there. But what I would suggest is, if there's anything there, to the best of my knowledge, taking anti-androgens right now isn't going to screen it. Especially anti-androgens versus the Lupron. But I don't know enough, and that's just my gut feel. And it would be nice to try and get you onto something that is going to protect you. Anyone else want to say anything to Jay on this?
When this is Bill speaking. So when Lupron, or not Lupron, but the other form of Luprolide, Eligard, failed for me, I went on enzalutamide, and enzalutamide did a good job for a number of months. So did I misunderstand you, Rick, in saying that you didn't think that it would work?
No, what I said was it's a different issue, Bill, that Jay is not on any type of LHRH right now.
Okay.
And the reason is because he didn't respond well to it at all. So the question is, what can he go on that would be hormone therapy that would not necessarily require that he was also on an LHRH?
Well, and to clarify that, my PSA responded well. I did not take well to the side effects.
Right.
Yeah, boy, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I don't think there is any anti-hormone therapy that doesn't cause side effects. What kind of side effects were you dealing with? Musculoskeletal or fatigue or?
Fatigue was one, but more brain fog, mental than anything.
Yeah.
Temperament change definitely, but also just brain fog was really bad.
Yeah. I was going to say if the problem was more, musculoskeletal problems, which is a common side effect, then I would recommend getting getting signed up for physical therapy.
Yeah. And I had that, but I was able to work through most of that. I mean,
okay. Yeah, but the mental stuff, I don't.
And I'm not sure. I had 4 monthly shots of Firmagon to begin with. Then I had a 3-month Lupron shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's cumulative with all of it together or the change from Firmagon to Lupron that really got me. So I'm struggling to figure out what to do next again. I'm going to have to go on at some point in time here.
Yeah. It is the case, though, that your body, I mean, if you were only on it for a total of, 6 months?
7 months, and then I quit. My PSA went undetectable, but the side effects, I quit.
Okay. I mean, over time, it could, if you have to go back on them, and it sounds like you will, it might be worth keeping in mind that the side effects, your body will adapt to the drugs, and the side effects will, they won't go away completely, but there's a good chance that they'll not be as acute as they are when you initially start the drugs.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I was just going to say, and I'll come back to you, Jake, that if you go on an anti-androgen, which essentially stops the testosterone from feeding, it blocks the androgen receptors, then you're not reducing your testosterone. And if you're not reducing your testosterone, some of your side effects are not going to be, the side effects are not going to necessarily be the same as if you were on a testosterone blocker, an LHRH drug. Now, it's not usually the way to go, but there are people that do it. And they do, instead of taking 50 milligrams, they take 150 milligrams a day of Casedex. I don't know if it would work with just taking something like enzalutamide alone, because enzalutamide is another anti-androgen, as Bill mentioned before. It works on the androgen receptors. So that's why I'm encouraging you to discuss that, because it would not take away the testosterone in your body that was causing you the brain fog. The other thought that I have, Jay, is to also run that past Alicia Morgan's in the context of the brain fog, because she's doing this research right now into brain fog. I don't exactly know what the research is and what she's testing, but I do know she's testing. It's one of her areas of interest. You know, you're a patient of hers, you've seen her, and you might just run it past her and say, Alicia, you know, Dr. Morgan's, what would you think if I need to go back on? What would you think about high dose Casodex instead of LHRH? Because I don't want to wrestle with the brain fog again. Or what do you think I could do in terms of hormone therapy that would have a lesser impact on my brain fog? But do it in the context of, send her the note in the context of brain fog, Jay.
Okay.
And then tell us what she says. I mean, she helped. She came back with you know, Rob went to see her a few weeks ago, and she's been really helpful to Rob, and she's come back with some trials and made some calls for him. And she likes us. She knows the work that we do on this call, and she likes us. And I just think that you'll get a response from her.
Okay, I will gladly do that.
And then you can, you know, then you can reference it to Kurt Tower and see where you go from there. But if it were me, I'd be trying to find some sort of hormone therapy that I could live with right now.
Okay.
Especially since you responded to it. You don't want to let the cancer get too far out of hand. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Rick, this is Larry Burke. Because I don't really have all the information. Jay, can you in 1 or 2 sentences tell me what the progress was on those drugs that you took? In other words, from the beginning, was it Lupron and then went to something else?
I initially had 4 monthly shots of Firmagon, and then I had a 3-month shot of Lupron.
So,
and your reaction was to the Lupron?
Well, it seemed to be. I mean, I had the 4 monthly shots of Firmagon. I had a 3-month shot of Lupron, and I remember the day after or 2 days after, we were driving for the weekend to go away, and I drove for a couple hours, and I don't remember driving at all. And I pulled over and said, you know, my wife, you better drive at this point in time, because I don't remember getting here. I also went into some very bad, you know, fever with chills and everything else, and spent a couple hours with as many blankets on me as I could. And going back to old days, I felt like I had just smoked a bunch of pot and just couldn't focus at all.
Right. But let me just intervene here. I don't want Lupron to get a bad rap. What happens is that over time, these side effects build up. I know that Bill mentioned that your body does accustom, but it takes quite a bit longer to accustom. But initially, the side effects don't show, and they get they accumulate, and then you feel them. The fact is that the Firmagon and the Lupron do the same job. They just do it in a different way. And so if you get Lupron initially, or you get Firmagon initially, or you get Eligard initially, or Zoladex, or Trelstar, or any of them, they're all going to lead to the same bottom line, which is a lack of testosterone in your body. Now, they do work a little bit differently. Some people have better response to one type than the other, but it's not huge. And so don't be thinking, Larry, that, you know, the Firmagon didn't do it, but as soon as he got the Lupron shot, it did it. It doesn't work that way. what happens is that after a period of time, you just the side effects show themselves. If anything, when Jay got that first shot of Lupron, he should have felt better, because what the Lupron actually does is it gives you a boost in testosterone before it reduces it. So it was like he got a testosterone infusion for a few days, for 3 or 4 days. So, again, we can discuss this at another time, because I want to get through everybody. But I don't want people to think that that these drugs have a different impact.
And Rick, I apologize. I was not suggesting anything about either one of those. That's just my experience.
Right, exactly.
There's lots of people on this call that have great experiences, and that's wonderful. I did not.
No, absolutely. And we respect that, and that's why we're trying to figure out, well, what could you do instead of Lupron?
Right.
But I don't want Larry to think that, oh, well, Jay did fine on Firmagon, but then as soon as he got his Lupron, he had a problem. So I want to stay on Firmagon the whole time. Ultimately, Firmagon's going to do the same thing as the Lupron.
Yeah.
No, well, for me, Rick, just as an aside, I am on Lupron. I've been on for 3 weeks. My wife, of course, always says that I was a moron to begin with, but I have not really felt any ill effects. Energy-wise, I'd say maybe 10%, but everything else, it was as good or bad as it was before. That's just me.
Okay. Well, give it time. I hate to say it, Larry. I hate to say be Job's comforter here, but give it time.
Oh, thanks. Great. I can't wait.
I know. All right, Jay. So look, you've got a couple of suggestions here. Reach out to Dr. Morgans, because I think she'll be very helpful. Talk specifically about using high dose bicalutamide, Casodex in place of Lupron, in place of an LHRH drug, and see what she says. And hopefully we'll get you lined up for a gallium-68 somewhere soon.
Yes, working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Rick, can I just throw something in the mix here? That new drug that was approved this year, apalutamide, trade name Erlita. I recall reading that it does not cross the blood-brain barrier to the same extent that enzalutamide or Xtandi does.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking there may be a possibility it doesn't introduce as much brain fog. Just something I think Jay should talk about with his doctor.
Mm-hmm.
See what they think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Len.
Sure.
It was, hold on a second. Yeah, it's been approved for non-metastatic
Non-metastatic.
castrate resistant.
Yeah.
Right.
Non-metastatic castrate resistant is what it's been approved for. Look, we could argue that for you, Jay. I think maybe because you have very light. You have very wasn't there some metastasis, lymph nodes or something? I can't remember.
No, nothing has been detected.
Okay, well, but maybe before you get. Well, no, but you're not castrate resistant.
Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's a good but Len's point as well too.
Check into it.
All right, I'm going to move on to Sylvester, and then we'll maybe have a few minutes at the end here. Sylvester, you had a question.
Yes, I do. On our last session, you asked me to remind you to forward me a PDF for the April the 2nd.
Thanks. Okay.
Get together. I don't know what PDF means, but whatever you suggest.
Okay, so I'll send you a PDF in the email, by email, that you'll be able to open and follow along the discussion next week. I don't have it yet.
Oh, take your time, whenever you can.
Right, I'm supposed to get the PDF from Ellie Van Allen sometime this week.
That sounds good.
But when I get it, I've made a note to myself here, and I'll put it somewhere else, and I will definitely forward. And thank you for reminding me, because I would have forgotten. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
One of the few things I can contribute here, PDF is portable document format, and it's in Adobe format. So that's what PDF is.
Portable
Okay,
document.
thank you.
There you go. So next time somebody says PDF to you, Sylvester, you can tell them, did you mean a portable document format? But they'll fall off their chair. They'll fall off their chair. Hey, Jake, did I cut you off before? Did you want to say something?
No. No, I was just basically agreeing with Professor Bill.
Okay.
That the effects of Lupron sometimes do wear off or do lessen with time.
Okay. Well, that's good testimony too for the discussions today. So let me just say a couple of quick things.
Rick, before you start, can I just interject one more final thing?
Yes.
I just want to confirm what Len just said, that apalutamide does not cross the blood-brain barrier. I just went to NIH website and confirmed that. And there is a discussion of how one of the benefits is that it would lead to less problems, with brain fog, for example. So Jay, it definitely would be worth talking to your oncologist about perhaps getting treated with apalutamide.
Right. Because we know that enzalutamide does cross the brain barrier, but the other thing is that my understanding, and it could be very wrong, is that a lot of this issue has to do with a lack of testosterone. When you have no testosterone in your body, it impacts the ability to produce endorphins. Does anybody know anything about that?
Yeah, Rick, I think that there are testosterone receptors in the brain, if I recall this correctly, so that those receptors, which presumably when blocked are causing the brain fog, would not be blocked by the apalutamide because it can't get to the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel good when Bill's on my side.
Don't you shouldn't automatically feel that way.
Okay.
I make lots of mistakes.
Okay.
But we'd never know anyway, Bill.
All right.
Well,
but I just looked this up, so I think you're correct here.
It all depends. It all depends whether your brain is up top or between your legs. I always remember my father telling me that don't let your brain be between your legs, and in which case that might have another nuance on the use of these drugs, right, Len?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to mention was we do have this call next week, and I'll be starting to promote it probably on Thursday with Ellie Van Allen. Some of you have already given your samples. Others of you may be motivated to provide a sample once you hear Ellie talking. It's what he's doing is a pretty remarkable project that we hope is going to really benefit a lot of people with living with prostate cancer. I mean, it may take a while, but it really is a terrific project. They've done it with breast cancer. Interestingly enough, I'm starting a conversation with a guy who may lead a brain cancer call, and he's had some significant conversations with Ellie Van Allen, although I'm not quite sure around what. Maybe the subject we were talking about just before, where exactly your brain is. I don't know. But anyway, it'll be a really good call. I'm excited, and we'll let Ellie talk for as long as he wants. And when we're done, if we have time for a regular call at the end and we can figure out a way to manage it, we'll do it. If not, you guys will have to live without a regular call. And by the way, the reason we didn't do this on a fifth Monday was because it really only is of interest to people with metastatic prostate cancer. So it isn't a plenary subject. It's really a subject that belongs within this call. And so I gave Ellie 3 or 4 dates, and this was the one that he picked. So that's one thing. I think most of you, I digress for a second on BJ Miller, but I personally am really excited to meet BJ. And if you haven't watched that video, that it's one of the most widely watched TED Talks ever, with over 6 million views. It's fantastic. I mean, it's just inspirational, and I personally am really excited because I have never met BJ in the flesh. I mean, we've talked many times, and we tried to meet. We tried to give Jerry Carnelia wanted BJ to have some of his artwork, and I tried several times to meet up with him, but when he actually came by and chose what he wanted, I wasn't there. But he does have some of Jerry's artwork framed and in his house. He was Jerry's palliative care doc and his quasi therapist. Jerry had a therapist, but the guy didn't compare to BJ. I mean, he used to love driving in and going to see BJ every 2 weeks, which he used to do. I mean, these two guys. So I will be wearing Jerry socks on Thursday, that's for sure.
Could I just say that this is Bill again, that I think it's also well worthwhile to read the New York Times article.
Yep.
For anyone who has a subscription to the New York Times. This person is absolutely extraordinary. He has an extraordinary story that not all of it made it into the TED Talk.
Yeah. He's very special. He's very, very special. And Eric continues to see him. And when we feel that Eric is getting too desperate and too desolate, we ask him if he's seen BJ. We make him check in with BJ, and BJ brings him off the ledge every time. So I don't think we've got any San Francisco-based patients men on today, but if you are San Francisco-based, he's an incredible resource, unbelievable resource at UCSF. We love it. I just realized I skipped over Shref. I skipped over you, Shref. I'm sorry. Are you still with us?
Still here.
I am so sorry because your picture went away.
Hey, no problem.
You had a question for us. We'll go overtime for you. No, absolutely.
Another time next week.
No. You were asking about the initial patent, correct? Was that it of drugs?
I just wondered what the initial treatment was for metastatic. Advanced.
When diagnosed with metastatic, or when
Correct.
It comes back as metastatic?
No, diagnosed first with metastatic.
Well, I'd love, I strongly recommend you listen to that same discussion that I mentioned before between Alicia Morgans, Chuck Ryan, and Chuck Sweeney, which is on our website, but I'll send it to you. I'll copy you on it when I send it to Chris Hill.
Rick,
great.
Larry Burke, can you copy me as well, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And guys, it's if you go to our website and look under prostate cancer resources, the link is right there. So you can find it there. But it is a really, really good discussion of what to do for guys that present with metastatic disease. And what I'd suggest is, guys, is listen to the discussion, and we can talk about it. But these guys are good. I mean, they're all great docs. It's relatively easy to understand. It's really sort of to help community oncologists as much as anything else. But I think most of you guys will understand it. And I strongly recommend you listen to it, and then Shref, make a note to ask me questions or ask us questions on the call about what they say. But it's all about sequencing chemotherapy and second-line anti-androgens when you get diagnosed with metastatic disease.
What's the title of the website underneath the
Our
prostate
website? Our website
Yes.
is ancan.org.
No, I meant it's on. You said it's under prostate cancer resources.
Yeah, it's on our website. Go to ancan.org.
Right.
And then you'll see. I'm just pulling it up so I give you all the right links. You'll see something called resources in the left-hand
Yes.
column, and under
Yes.
resources there's something called prostate cancer links.
Yes.
And if you click on prostate cancer links, and scroll down to advanced treatments, there is the second one says Zytiga, Xtandi, or chemo first.
Got it.
There's Alicia Morgan's, Chuck Ryan, and Chris Sweeney.
Got it.
Discuss.
Thank you very much.
You got it right there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll send it to you anyway. I'll include.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, guys.
Okay, no, wait. Oh, one. Can I
Yes.
add
You
one
can
more
always.
piece of information to to help potentially help Chris? Is Chris? Are you still here?
I am.
Okay, another treatment that we forgot to raise the possibility for you is something called Provenge, or
Provenge.
cell T. It's spelled Provenge. It's a different type of immunotherapy than the one that I'm receiving. It's basically a cancer vaccine, and it would be I would highly recommend it. I mean, I'm not a physician, but you know, it
I would
is
have to qualify. My test would have to qualify in order to receive this, right?
Right.
A gene test.
No. In this case, no. It's because it's a different type of immunotherapy.
Bill,
The genetics is not. Actually, I take that back. It would help if you have a high mutation burden. But don't. You know, the important thing is
Bill,
bring it
can I
up with your
interrupt you?
doctor.
Okay.
You have
Sure.
Provenge. Okay.
you have to be castrate resistant in order for Medicaid to pay for it.
I'm on Medicare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I'm
no.
sorry. You have to be castrate resistant for Medicare to pay for it.
Oh, really?
And right now,
Okay.
Chris isn't castrate resistant.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot that part.
So
Okay.
All right.
you need.
Yeah, sorry, but when you do become castrate resistant, if that happens, then yeah, I would definitely bring it up.
Right.
I get the sense that eventually, if you do hormone therapy long enough, you eventually will become castrate resistant. Is that right?
Correct.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
And as
All
soon
right, well,
as you
I got
become
my-
castrate resistant, it is definitely. I strongly agree with Bill. It is a very good option to consider early, but you do have to have 3 successive rises in your PSA whilst you're on hormone therapy. Now, having said that, I have known people who deliberately went off their hormone therapy and quickly got 3 successive PSA rises and got approved and then went back on their hormone therapy. So there are ways to manipulate it depending on the doctor that you're seeing.
I did have one comment on the fatigue issue, and I was given Lupron and Casodex simultaneously, and when I came off of the Casodex, I gained some vitality back. I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but I thought I'd throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had a question of whether they're going to, second round of hormone therapy, whether they're going to probably recommend Casodex, Lupron, along with those other 2 options, enzalutamide or abiraterone.
Okay, so without getting into a long discussion at this point in time, UCSF tends not to use what's called double blockade, which is anti-androgen and LHRH at the same time. They certainly would not use LHRH. They certainly wouldn't use the bicalutamide, the Casodex, with a second-line anti-androgen. I have heard recently a couple of the doctors there who do prescribe bicalutamide and the LHRH at the same time. Whatever.
That's what Dr. Kim did that.
Whatever. When I say at the same time, I'm talking about not just for 2 weeks. I'm not talking about 2 weeks. I'm talking about long term.
Oh, well, that's where Dr. Chang protected me. He told me to get off of the bicalutamide, where Dr. Kim wanted me to stay on it, and I took Dr. Chang's advice. And
okay, well, but we can save this. Let's save this discussion for the next call.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We close up at this point. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Okay. So everybody, we didn't run over too much. Only 8 minutes. Sorry, guys. We'll talk to you. I guess with Ellie Van Allen on the call next Monday. Good night.
Okie doke. Good night.
Okay, good night. Thank you. Everybody, stay well, stay strong.
Thanks. Oh, happy Seder, happy Passover, happy Easter to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Hey, Rick, are you still on?
I am. Hold on. Yes, I am still on.
Can you remind me what I need to do so I can prepare for next Monday?
Oh, yes. And Jake. Essentially, just have some questions ready for Ellie Van Allen is what you need to do.
All right. I will be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. Have some questions ready for him. I mean, gen up on the project, which you can do off of the website.
Right.
It's the website is mpcpproject.org.
Okay, give me a minute to pull up something that I can write that down. I'm sure that I have it somewhere, but just to make sure.
I'll send it to you, Bill.
Okay, good. Terrific.
MPCP to Bill. I think it was Bill, Jake, and Len who, it was you, Jake, and Len that were going to be on the panel.
Yeah.
So I'll send a reminder. I've written it down on my sheet, so I'll send a reminder. And yeah, just basically so that you can be in a position to ask him any questions you might have.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Terrific.
My pleasure.
So have a good time with BJ. I'm jealous. I wish I were.
Thank you very much. What are you doing for Easter, Bill?
Just hanging out here with my family. My birthday is the day after, so I think they're planning on a celebration.
Now wait a minute. Are we saying April 1st or April 2nd?
2nd. I think April 1st.
Glad
Easter
it's
is
not April 1st.
Yeah. So, yeah. So will you be attending a Seder or
two?
Wow.
Two. I'm
Uh-oh.
very excited. One with my friend Nellie and her family, and then the other with my buddy Steve Wool, whose wife is being honored. Her memory is being honored for the BJ
Right.
BJ function.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at Steve's. In fact, I've got a pile of Haggadahs right here that he gave me last night that I've got to go through and start pulling pieces out. So
Yeah.
got all about that.
I've attended several Seders over the years, and it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I can tell you though, I don't miss gefilte fish.
You don't miss. Well, my friend Nellie
No.
said she was going to make her own. Is Molly home?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
will a whole bunch of you be going to church or not?
Those of us who aren't atheists, which is half the family.
Okay.
So, meaning Molly and me. But yeah, it may just be the two of us.
The two of you. Well, you know, this year, Seder night is Good Friday. The first Seder night is Good Friday. It's Friday night.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like in the the original thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So there you
Okay.
go.
Well, enjoy the Seders
Thank
and
you. I wish
have
you were
a
here.
good week.
We would have you over. We would include you in a heartbeat, Mr. Burhans, Professor Burhans. In a
Oh,
heartbeat.
yeah, that would be nice.
All of you.
Yeah. Terrific.
All right.
All
Okay.
right. Thanks,
Take care.
Rick.
Take care. Thanks for coming on tonight. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hi, guys.
Bye.
That's it.
Bye.